What's going on, guys? And today we are doing a lot of fabrication once again. We're fitting a giant 302 5-liter Ford engine into my not so giant MGB GT. Now, we've made it a lot wider, but the frame rails are still as narrow as ever, which means we've got to do a lot of modification to get this engine to fit. Yesterday, I honestly just didn't feel like filming. I've got the best job in the world and I couldn't dream of doing anything more fun, but some days I still just don't feel like doing it. So in those days, I still work because I still got to get stuff done, but I just punish myself with whatever task it is that I don't want to do the most. And yesterday, that was the floor pan. So we've got to make some clearance for this engine in the transmission tunnel area and in the footwell, the driver footwell area. Along with that, my car was in really bad shape when I bought it. For you guys that maybe weren't here in the beginning, this car hadn't run since 1993 when I bought it, and it had sat with the driver window down for a large portion of that time, maybe a decade. And so the driver footwell was just rusted out and gone. Now the frame rails look really good, so that's awesome. But yeah, the footwell is totally gone. So yesterday, I went in and cut it out, which is a job I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, and we got it clean. And so I'm using a patch panel to kind of fix that, and we started that yesterday. I'm gonna do the interesting part today, which is actually fitting it, welding it together, and getting it in, so I'll show you guys that. Another thing I did yesterday was cut off the old engine mounts, so those are gone as well, just to clean up and clear up as much room as possible for this 302. The goal at the end of today, I think it's a big one, but I think we can do it, is to get the subframe back in and get the engine mounted in the car, maybe with the transmission because my bell housing came in. We can kind of get it all set up to see how it's gonna look. We're not gonna work on running the engine this episode. I want to dedicate an episode to getting the engine running and functioning properly, so we'll do that next week. But if we can get this thing in, that will be huge for moving forward with this swap. So far, everything's gone pretty smoothly. Like I said, today we're gonna be doing a lot of fabrication, just kind of getting the last few check marks ticked off to be able to run this engine in this car. So let's go do it. All right, so we bought a full floor pan for this car, even though we only really need to replace the front half. The back is still okay. So I'm using the entire thing to kind of build a new replacement panel. Now, our rust actually had crept up into the right side of the footwell, which is good, you know, as good as it could be, because we actually need to make some clearance for our new T5 transmission. And so this is gonna fix that rust issue and then also make some clearance. You'll see I went ahead and spray painted around the edge of it. That gives me a footprint inside the car to cut out so that we can butt weld all these joints and make them really nice. We're gonna trim off this lip right here, and that'll be self-explanatory when we get to that. But pretty much it's gonna be a cut and paste kind of thing with a little bit of fabrication in the middle, and I really love this part of the fabricating process. So I'm really excited to do this. You guys that are big Fatson fans will notice the Fatson is uncovered behind me. I'm making fiberglass parts for that, like the finished parts. I don't know how long it's gonna take. I just wanna do it and have it done in one video. So we are doing that in the background. If you're wondering where it's at, that's what we're doing. When we get it done, we'll post a video and it'll be awesome, and we'll be able to roll the car again. It'll be really great. But for now, we're working on MG. So I guess without further ado, let's make us a floor plan. Floor plan? Floor pan. Let's make us a floor pan. It is another just blistering hot Alabama day. I'm gonna be doing a lot of fan standing today. And we're day 3 on this video, just to kind of give you guys a timeline. I know I've rushed through those first 2 days. It's because they were just the most unfun thing I've done in a really, really long time. Easily the hardest sheet metal repair I've ever had to do. And it came out pretty good. We've still got some pinholes that we need to weld up. I'm gonna be using some fiberglass to help make sure everything is absolutely watertight where we welded. And then we've got one more patch to do kind of near the clutch, but it's on this side, it's out of the engine bay, and I just need a brake. So I'm not gonna do that right now, we'll do it later, and we'll weld out and paint and grind and all that on the inside later as well, because what I really want to do in this video is get the engine in. And that's why we did that work, because I didn't want to have to try to weld that with the engine in there. It would have been way harder, especially up underneath the footwell and stuff, so being able to do it with the engine out was the way to go, and it worked, and it looks okay. We needed to clearance some space there anyway for the transmission and stuff, or the bell housing really. The transmission's small, but the bell housing's huge. So we did that, and I think we shouldn't have any clearance issues from here on out, which is pretty awesome. So I'm gonna do a little bit more work welding on the cross member. We're gonna weld in some angle gussets. I read some of the comments you guys said, like, hey, welds look okay, but the right angle might be a little bit weak. And I agree, so we're gonna throw in some angle gussets into the corners just to kind of give us more strength. It's probably overkill, but better overkill than snapping a cross member. We're using some 3/16 inch thick. I get them all confused on my Imperial stuff. Plate to make those, which also is overkill, but I've got it. And then once we get those made, yeah, I think once those are made and welded in, we'll paint it and we'll get ready to put the cross member back in. I got my bell housing, I got my clutch, I got everything I need to kind of put my engine back together, minus the clutch fork thing, but we'll do that later. But we'll put all that together as a unit, and hopefully this thing will bolt right back in and we can shoehorn the engine in and have a V8 MG, which is awesome. I'm sweating like crazy. Good night. It is so hot today. So I think that's all I'm gonna do for talking for now. I'm gonna go stand in front of the fan some more, and then we'll weld. Let's do it. Whoop, got hung. Let's try again. get some fans. It's hot in here today. Hey, can you take that and use that to jack it up a little bit? Yeah, that goes into there. Yep, and jack it up. Up and down. Up, all the way up, yeah, and all the way down. Yep, keep going. There you go, good job. Going. Okay, stop right there. Alright. Now grab this with me, and when we roll this away, that will mean that we have a V8MG. Alright, you ready? Yeah. Cool. Look at that, dude.
Now we have a different kind of MG.
Yep. It's a V8. That, you know what that means? This car is going to be fast. We did it. We now have a V8 MG. And it's going to be hard to believe, but this engine does not fit in there very easily. But we did get it in there. The biggest issue I had the first time around, the first 3 times around, is my engine mounts were on backwards. So my passenger side was on the driver, passenger, and it was making the engine sit too far back. I was getting really, really nervous. Like there was no way the bell housing was gonna clear. Now we have just enough room, I think, to clear the bell housing, and really just enough room to get the engine in. But it is in. I don't know if our hood's gonna fit in its current form, but I planned on running a hood that had like a lift in it, a bulge in the middle anyway, so that's fine. I'm not worried about that.
Did you use the hammer today?
Maybe in a little bit.
I'm ready to snap.
I genuinely hope that this is the coolest thing that you have seen today. That's why we're doing this. It is incredible seeing the V8 in this car. We got cut short yesterday. My son is starting school this year. So if you've been watching the channel since the very beginning, and if you, like my son, were born the first year of the channel, you'd be going to kindergarten right now, which is insane to think about. But we had to go meet teachers and do all the new school stuff, school supplies. So I stopped this, and now we are back and ready to take the engine back out. This was just a test fit to make sure I could kind of understand how to get this thing in. It did not go super smoothly the first time, but now I kind of understand what's going on. I understand how to get it in, and so we'll be able to get it in again. So now that we know that this fits mostly, and we've got to do some adjusting, but it does fit mostly, we can pull it back out, and we're going to bolt on our transmission, and then we'll go at fitting it again with the transmission on, just to make sure that it's going to fit. And then I'm going to have to make a parts list of just things that I've forgotten that we're going to need in order to get this thing to actually run. We will be trying to run it next video, okay? So this video, we're going to finish up our fitting, get everything in, make sure it all works, and then the next video, we'll start checking off the list of things we need to make it run. Very exciting times. All right, let's pull this thing out. All right, so I have gone through and wire brushed this entire motor. I forgot brake clean. Man, I went to the store to get brake clean and paint, and I got the paint and was distracted and forgot the brake clean. That's okay, we're gonna clean it. I've got some other stuff we can clean it with, that'll probably be good enough. Anyway, we're gonna clean it up, we're gonna get it painted and make it look nice. And one, because I just want to, but two, because we're gonna be bolting it to something that is really, really nice. This, boom, is my transmission. Look at it. Will you just look at it? So I bought this transmission so long ago. I mean, a really, really long time. Let's pull this off. There we go. And this is the actual transmission. And I bought it before I bought the, like March maybe. I was doing a lot of research on this engine setup and the transmission for it. And the one that I've heard to get was called the T5 World Class. And that was like the strongest T5 that they made. You go from there to what's called a TKO, which is a lot more expensive of a transmission, but it'll hold a lot more power. So I decided to go with a T5, and the used ones were like, I don't know, $500-600. And there's a guy in Georgia that rebuilds these and upgrades a lot of the components that are kind of problem areas with the transmission. And his rebuilds are $1,000. I think it was like, yeah, I think it was $1,000 even, maybe $1,100, which is a lot, but the transmission was something I wasn't willing to bet money on. With a used one being $600-700 and it being kind of hard to figure out which one you were getting, it's just something that I felt like I needed to go ahead and spend the money on and worry about later. The engine I got for $350. If we blow it up, I just don't care. But the transmission, a little more important. Now, what I didn't really understand when I bought this was that bell housings don't come on transmissions typically. So you can put the transmission to a bunch of different engines. And this one is no different. So I had to buy a bell housing. The bell housing was $280. That's this thing right here. And that is what actually allows us to attach our transmission. It also gives us It also gives us mounting places for the starter. I'm gonna throw one of these bolts in that I think are bell housing bolts. I was given these bolts a very long time ago. All right, now, so this looks a little bit more like what you're used to seeing, I'm sure, with our bell housing. Now, we're still missing some stuff. We've got to have a clutch fork, which I bought. It was like $40, and that's what's going to actually touch the slave cylinder and allow us to disengage the clutch. We've got our clutch already. I got one off of eBay per the advice of a Instagram/YouTube subscriber who told me which one to get. Thank you so much. I can't remember your name, and I couldn't find it on Instagram. It's very hard to get in DMs, but thank you. You know who you are. Thank you so much. We're going to put that on there too. And then we needed, what else do we need? We're probably going to need something to hold our slave cylinder. We might make it. We might buy it. I don't know. And we need a shifter. As you can see, this one doesn't have a shifter. And the guy that I bought this from said, look, man, buy a shifter. Don't use the stock one. Buy a shifter. And the thing about it is the stock shifter doesn't have lockouts, I think, for third gear. And people blow third gear up in this transmission a lot. I think, if I'm wrong, tell me in the comments. But yeah, so I bought a shifter as well. So transmission, $1,100. Bell housing, $230. Clutch fork, $40. Shifter, $140. It's $180, $230. It's a lot. I'll put it on the screen. So how much does this transmission cost? That much. Now, a lot of times with engine swap things like this, someone will say, well, my granddad rebuilds these and he sells them for $350, and if he does, let me know where he is, and I will buy them all. But that's an actual cost for you on what it's going to cost to get like a good transmission rebuilt with the parts that you want to run your 302. Cool? I don't regret it. I'm excited to have a nice transmission in this car. We're going to need it. All right, so that's all we had to do to this. I'll tighten those bolts down in a minute. That was easy. Let's paint the engine. Now, I know not everybody's gonna be a fan of this, but we're gonna do minimal taping here because it's an American motor and they just run. So spray paint, it's combustible. Ta-da! This was impromptu. I had some blue paint left over from the 2.3 that we built that we've showed a little bit on the channel, but we're filming it all off camera. We're doing it all. We'll post it when it's done. The silver to silver fade wasn't quite the effect I wanted. There was definitely a fade there, but it was nothing you were ever gonna see. And that just wasn't cool to me. So I had some blue paint. That's like a Ford color, I think, maybe. I don't know. And I did a fade, and I'm actually pretty proud of it. It looks pretty good. It's a solid gradient to the top. Yeah, I like it. All right, so I've been working on this for, I don't know, hour and a half. And you can see we clearanced up here. And we've got plenty of clearance for our bell housing now. I could not get both bolts to line up. This bolt is mounted, that one's not. Sorry about the shadows, it's getting late. It's Saturday, by the way. And this little corner right here is keeping our engine from mounting. That one. So we're gonna pull the engine back out. We're gonna hammer that. And then hopefully, the engine will go in. Still really, really hot. All right, so this little area right here is our issue. So I'm just gonna hammer it all back. And hopefully our engine will go in. In case you're wondering, now that we clearanced the transmission tunnel, there's 2 more spots that are hitting. And if you've ever worked on a car that you've really loved and it's been a hard project, you've been here. It's late at night. I wanted to be done with this yesterday, and yet here we are. But I'm not leaving the shop until this thing is mounted. It's not gonna happen. So we're gonna keep massaging, we're gonna keep moving some metal around, and we're gonna mount this thing tonight in this video. Let's do it. Big hammer. Come on. Yep, that's good. Good news. Yeah. Let's go. Come on, baby. Let's go. Go to your home. Go to your home. Yes. One more. There it is. Hey. Let's go. Let's go. Oh, so excited. So excited. We so excited. That is awesome. That is awesome. Oh, man. What a battle. There it is. It's an MG with a V8 in it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm just glad it's over. We'll see you in the next one.
You